There comes a morning, quiet, heavy, strangely hollow, when a man wakes and feels a weight he cannot name. The room is familiar, the walls unchanged, the world moving just as it always has, yet something inside him has shifted. He stands from his bed, surrounded by people in his life, yet untouched by any real sense of connection. The noise of the world press against him, but none of it reaches the center of his chest. This is the moment you realize something unsettling. Despite the crowds, despite the messages, despite the laughter around you, you are walking through your life alone. Ancient warriors knew solitude as a sacred silence, a place where the world thinned until only truth remained. But modern loneliness is different. It is loud, it is chaotic, it is the feeling of drowning in shallow water, suffocated not by isolation itself, but by the absence of something authentic in the presence of many. You sit in a cafe, surrounded by chatter, yet feel 1,000 miles away. You scroll through endless faces and feel none of them looking back. The more connected we become, the more invisible we feel. It's here that Musashi's first truth cuts through the fog. The path begins only when you stop expecting company. Freedom doesn't arrive with a crowd behind you. It arrives the moment you accept that no one is coming to save you, guide you, or walk beside you. Walking alone is not just a physical journey. It is a psychological departure from the familiar warmth of dependence. And that is why freedom terrifies you at first. Because before it liberates you, it exposes you. It pulls away the comforting illusion that someone else will carry your burden. You realize the journey is yours alone. And in that realization, the first gate to true freedom opens. Not with triumph, but with a shiver. There are chains you can see, and there are chains woven so gently around your life that you never notice them tightening. Musashi warned against relying on anything too dearly. Most men misinterpret this as coldness or isolation, but Musashi understood something deeper. A man becomes weak long before he realizes he's losing strength, not through disaster, but through comfort, not through conflict, but through attachment. Look at your life closely. You believe you're independent, yet your steps are dictated by subtle dependencies, small emotional anchors buried beneath the routine. You check your phone not because you need to, but because you fear the silence. You keep certain friendships alive not out of loyalty, but out of the terror of what their absence might reveal about who you are. Even your identity becomes a dependency. The version of yourself the world recognizes becomes a cage you're afraid to abandon. Modern pain doesn't shout. It whispers. It hides behind routine, behind validation, behind the desire to be understood by someone, anyone. These attachments look harmless, even comforting, like chains made of silk, soft to the touch but impossibly strong when you try to pull away. And so you make decisions without realizing who is making them. You say yes out of habit. You stay in places that drain you. You cling to relationships that no longer align with the man you're becoming. And worst of all, you build your identity around what other people expect, quietly sacrificing your own direction. The paradox is simple and cruel. You cling to what weakens you because it feels familiar. Freedom feels foreign, distant, threatening, while captivity feels warm and predictable. Musashi broke these invisible attachments not because he was fearless, but because he understood that dependency is the first enemy of a free mind. When you begin to see what you've been leaning on, you also see the price you've been paying. And for the first time, you understand that walking alone isn't about rejecting others. It's about reclaiming yourself from the things that have quietly owned you. Imagine stepping into an empty dojo after years of living in crowded rooms, filled with voices, demands, and obligations. The silence hits you like cold air, sharp enough to make you aware of the noise you've been carrying inside your skull. Musashi lived an ascetic life not for appearance but for survival. He understood that clarity is a weapon, and noise is the dulling of that blade. Today, A man's battlefield is not a field of swords. It's an arena of infinite voices, opinions you never asked for, desires that aren't yours, temptations designed to hollow you out slowly. You're surrounded by a world built to keep you distracted, reactive, unfocused, and the most dangerous part, you begin to think this noise is normal. But Musashi didn't eliminate distractions through harsh discipline or brute force. He removed them by understanding their cost. Every distraction is a theft of your attention. Every habit that numbs you steals a fraction of your life. Every desire planted by society becomes a seed that grows into a forest that blocks your path. You are sharpening yourself every day, whether you know it or not. The question is, are you sharpening your blade, or are you dulling it? Think of your life as a sword. Each distraction removed is a slow, deliberate stroke of the whetstone, bringing back the edge you lost beneath the noise. When you close the door, when you silence the world, when you sit alone without reaching for something to fill the emptiness, you begin to hear what you've been avoiding. Silence is not comfortable at first. It is a razor. It slices through every excuse, every mask, every belief that wasn't truly yours. It reveals the weight of your unmet responsibilities and the truth you hope to outrun. But in that stillness, something else emerges. Your own voice, faint at first, then undeniable. Musashi's way of walking alone begins here, with the courage to step out of the noise and into the clarity you've been missing your entire life. Stay alone long enough, and the world begins to fade. The noise outside dissolves, the expectations of others grow distant, and the distractions you once used to shield yourself lose their power. At first, this solitude feels like a quiet room. Then, suddenly, it becomes a mirror. Without the world's voices, you begin to hear echoes of your own. The insecurities you buried rise to the surface. The failures you hid behind busyness stand in front of you, unblinking. The versions of yourself you abandoned appear with questions you never answered. This is the moment where most men break. Because solitude doesn't just strip away the world. It strips away the illusions you've built to protect yourself from your own reflection. Musashi embraced this confrontation. His way of walking alone wasn't a celebration of isolation. It was an invitation to meet the parts of himself he could not access in the presence of others, to face the shadow that grew beneath his victories, to look into the silent water of his mind and wait for the distortion to settle. Think of your mind as a pond. When you first step into solitude, the water is disturbed, rippling with anxieties and leftover noise. You see yourself only in fragments, warped, incomplete. But stay long enough, breathe long enough, remain still long enough, and the water clears. Your true reflection emerges, unfiltered. Modern life offers 1,000 escape routes from this moment. Endless screens, endless voices, endless tasks, all designed to save you from yourself. But true freedom does not come from self-confidence. It comes from self-honesty. The courage to look at your flaws without flinching, your desires without shame, your weaknesses without excuse. Solitude is the only space where that honesty can survive. Musashi understood. A man who cannot face himself will never command himself, and a man who cannot command himself will never walk freely. There is a terrifying truth hidden in Musashi's life, one that most men feel but never speak aloud. Transformation demands sacrifice. To walk the path alone, you must be willing to shed entire versions of yourself, and not slowly, not gently, but deliberately, as a warrior burns the old dojo to build a stronger one on the same ground. Most men fear freedom not because it is hard, but because it makes them unrecognizable. You've spent years building an identity out of expectations. The reliable one, the strong one, the agreeable one, the version of yourself others are comfortable with. You cling to these masks even when they suffocate you, because the moment you set them down, you must confront what remains. Musashi understood this fear. Every reinvention of himself required a death of the man he once was. He left behind teachers, schools, traditions, reputations, anything that threatened to anchor him to a version of himself he had already outgrown. To evolve, he had to betray the identity that once protected him. Modern life resists this kind of evolution. Friends tell you you've changed. Family clings to the older version of you because it makes them feel stable. Society wants you predictable. The world punishes the man who dares to become something unexpected. And so most men settle into quiet obedience, trapped in the familiar prisons they mistake for identity. But you feel it, don't you? The quiet pull to outgrow your own life. The sense that the man you were is too small for the man you're becoming. It is a frightening awareness, one that shakes your certainty and your relationships and your sense of belonging. Yet this is the threshold Musashi crossed. Freedom is not found in becoming more of who you are, but in letting yourself become someone entirely new. A man who walks alone must be willing to become a stranger to his past self. Only then can he step into the unmapped terrain of his true potential. Only then does walking alone become not a punishment, but a rebirth. There is a level of freedom so rare, so unsettling, that most men spend their entire lives avoiding it. It is the state Musashi reached through decades of deliberate solitude. The condition of needing nothing, not because he was indifferent, but because he had pierced through the illusion that anything external could complete him. This is not coldness. It is clarity. When a man needs nothing, he stops bargaining with the world. He stops chasing approval. He stops bending himself to fit places that do not honor him. He stands still, centered, immovable, not as a statue, but as a storm student. He has walked through chaos enough times that the wind no longer threatens him. He no longer fears loss, because he no longer depends on what can be taken. Musashi lived this truth with a calm that unsettled even his rivals. He understood the temporary nature of everything: comfort, companionship, status, identity. To rely on them was to build a home out of smoke. So he forged a life where his strength came from within. A life that looked lonely from the outside, but was whole from the inside. In the modern world, emotional independence is almost rebellious. You are told to seek constant reassurance, to outsource your sense of worth, to rely on constant validation. But a man who trains himself to need nothing discovers a terrifying beauty. He becomes unshakable, not harsh, not detached, simply complete. And completeness changes the way you move through life. You stop chasing, you start choosing. You stop fearing solitude. You begin to use it. You stop looking for someone to steady you. You steady yourself. This level of freedom is not glamorous. It is quiet, disciplined, almost mythic. But it is the foundation of every warrior who ever walked his path without trembling. To need nothing is not to reject the world. It is to stop letting the world dictate who you must be. Walk alone long enough, and a strange shadow begins to follow you. Not fear, not loneliness, responsibility. When there is no one left to blame, no one left to lean on, no one left to rescue you, a man is forced to confront the pure weight of his own agency. It is the heaviest burden a human being can carry. This is the freedom most men fear. Not the solitude, not the silence, but the undeniable truth that their life is theirs and theirs alone. Every step forward or backward is authored by their own hand. Every failure is honest. Every success is earned. There are no excuses left. Musashi lived with this weight every day. His freedom was not passive. It was carried, like a blade strapped to his spirit, reminding him that the path he walked was carved by his choices alone. He didn't follow trails laid out by others. He didn't wait for someone to grant him permission. He moved through the world like a man who understood that life reveals itself only to those who carve their own way. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast plain. No footprints, no signposts, no map. just open land stretching toward the horizon. Most men panic at this sight. They beg for direction, for guidance, for anything that guarantees they won't be the one responsible if they fail. But the warrior who walks alone understands the truth. The path appears when he begins to walk. This final level of freedom is unsettling because it removes every hiding place. Yet it is empowering because it returns your life to your hands. It is the moment you stop searching for a path and become it. Freedom is not a roar. It is a quiet shift beneath the ribs, a steadying of breath, a settling of the spirit. Musashi's way of walking alone is not a call to isolation, but a return to alignment, an invitation to reclaim the territory of your own mind. You were never meant to walk the same road as everyone else. You were meant to walk your road without trembling. And now, you finally see where it begins.